So, you're probably wondering how I got to play Sonic Frontiers because, well, you can't. It all started when I got hit up by Sonic the Hedgehog himself, asking me to travel around the world to play the game. Today? I mean, yeah, I was recently in the hospital and I should probably rest, but what better place to relax than the Big Island? I mean, hey, I'm not passing up a free trip to Hawaii. So with incredibly short notice, I packed my bag and left for the necessary hellhole of LAX, where all my recording equipment got pulled in TSA because it probably looks like a bomb. And after that, my flight got delayed and I ate some glorified cafeteria food. Awesome. I know that you clicked on this video to see some Sonic Frontiers, but I'm telling a story, okay? So how about a compromise? Alright, that's it. I don't want to make this too travel vloggy though, but I did just buy a new camera for this and I need it to be a tax write-off. So eventually I made it into the air just to sit next to an older couple heading to Hawaii who read biblical scripture to each other for the entire 5-hour plane ride. The trip hasn't even started yet. And it's going great. You'd think Sonic would treat me better than suffering an economy sitting in front of a child singing Baby Shark while crying. So after the longest 5 hours in documented history, I called an Uber who only listened to reggae covers of Jimmy Buffett and eventually made it to my hotel to immediately pass out, just to wake up at 5 a.m. My day started with the usual tradition of staring at the ceiling while being half awake for approximately 3 hours before walking around my private room naked, only to realize that my public window faces the resort's golf course. So, shout out to the Scramble who saw full shaft. Whenever I decided to show signs of life, I walked around and realized that, hey, Hawaii is actually a very pretty state. I saw a bird, tons of water, and even a free breakfast courtesy of the Blue Bastard himself. It was a peaceful breakfast, but what was really nice was eavesdropping on everyone around me to hear couples here for an anniversary. Some families are reuniting for the first time in years, and I'm here alone to play Sonic. So I guess it's time to give you what you came for. Sonic Frontiers. But before we got into it, they gave us a little preview presentation and completely spoiled that fishing is in the game. That's a massive reveal. You gotta give us some foreplay first. I got a bit scared because my allegedly explosive recording equipment wasn't capturing any of the footage until I realized that I had the input plugged into the output and the output plugged into the input. This didn't have to be mentioned in the video, but I felt really stupid and felt like I needed to out myself on this one. Since the entire room was full of game journalists and me for some reason, honestly, how did I end up here? I didn't record any live commentary, mainly because I'd feel like a dick. Being the loud, funny internet man online is awesome, but doing that 10 feet away from someone complaining about how there's too much water would just make me look like an asshole. So I'm just gonna walk you through my whole experience with Frontiers. We only played curated segments from the first 3 acts of the game, and hey, I gotta say, it's good. What's nice about sitting in the back of the room is that I can tell who had technical difficulties and who didn't, and actually gets to play the game. I'll be honest, I don't really get the plot yet. You know, all of the cutscenes I watched were missing context, but I think it starts out with Amy, Tails, and Sonic crash their plane by getting sucked into cyberspace that locks friends in jars while Sonic is fortunately Kingdom Hearts strong enough to escape it. Oh, and Eggman's here. The game drops you in one of those cyberspace scenes, which is pretty much just glitchy Green Hill Zone with a lot of references, but they're all pretty subtle. Obviously, the first level is based on Green Hill because this is a Sonic game, but then you have these amazing reimaginings of Chemical Plant and Sky Sanctuary that are all sporting absolute bangers. You have your references to White Jungle, Green Forest, Sky Rail, and probably a ton of others I didn't even pick up on. These cyberspace missions are truly the best part of Frontiers, but they do this silly little thing at the end where they tell you, hey, you're actually awful at this game. So you replay it a little better until you realize that you're still awful at this game, only to replay it again and again and again and eventually continue on now that your ego can rest. Then it's like, oh hi, welcome. You're trapped on Hell Island and your friends are dead. They also gave Sonic a slightly lower voice for this game, and it makes me feel just a little bit uncomfortable.
Looks like I'm the only one who made it out of that. Whatever it was.
I guess he had to start puberty eventually. For the most part, the overworld is super Breath of the Wild, like as you hit your Ubisoft towers to reveal more of the map. I don't think this game has fast travel, which is unfortunate, but I'm sure the reasoning is because all travel is fast travel when you're Sonic. or something like that. The intro just shows you how to accomplish all these little side quests, how to fight some baddies, and then that speedrunners can definitely find a way to sequence break. They have all these badass mechs you have to fight that hit you with a 1950s punch sound effect, and when you beat them, they give you mystery dungeon time gears. The combat feels a bit sluggish at the start, but once you decorate the skill tree a bit more, this combat potential is unlimited. So now imagine Smash Bros, right? Imagine Sonic being on the other side of the map, and then he just busts this out. Yeah, so I think this game's fine without balance patches. Going back to the mech fights, this shit's insane. You got a guy named Sumo who requires a surgical amount of geometry. You have a fucking spaceship who forces you to grind on their carbon footprint, and then you're thrown into this badass fight this badass dude, and get hit with... The newest Sonic thing is the Psyloop, aka the little circle path thingy. And I'm not proud of what I had to do, but I knew I had to do it before anyone else did. I would have drawn full cock and balls, but I heard Japanese snickering behind me over the Among Us, and I just didn't want to press my luck. So after beating the next mech, I felt good, because I have officially proven myself to be faster than the nearby game journalist. The flow of this game is essentially just fighting bosses, so you can go to cyberspace, so you can get the keys, and then you can get a Chaos Emerald, but let me tell you about the horror. That is 1-2, the hardest level in this game somehow. I brought this up to Sega staff when I was done, and everyone knows about it, and everyone agrees. On your first attempt, you have a lovely stroll through Sky Sanctuary and think, wow, what nice music, what nice scenery, what a nice game. Well, that's where you're wrong, asshole. This game actually hates you. You finish the level in 69 seconds, nice, and then you're told for an S rank, you gotta shave off 14 whole ass seconds off. And you know, that doesn't sound that bad since you weren't trying and is not fully reflective of your skill, but after 20 minutes of grinding and doing shit like this and this and this and this and this, it's not good enough. Like, what 60-year-old dev thinks he's better at the game than me? I tried a few other attempts, but like, this level is brutal. And it's the second one of the game. Is every level gonna be like this, you're probably wondering? No, not at all. That's the frustrating part. Only this one is hard, and I don't know why. I eventually gave up, felt terrible, and found Amy, who's half alive, which means our goal's already half done. To save her, not kill her. Fight a few badass mechs, find these weird little heart tokens, and maybe a few more mini games along the way before asking, why was that level so hard? Today's play session is limited to just a few hours, so it's probably best that I move on. The other cyberspace levels were definitely easier, which allowed us to get a couple more Chaos Emeralds, but gah! Jesus Christ, it has to be possible, right? So, in typical Jacob Alpharad fashion, I ended up spending a full hour of my 5-hour playtest session grinding out this one level, and oh my god, this is what made me realize that the game is actually really good. I think some of the fine movements can be slippery, but like, I had to create speedrun tech and implement it before the game even came out. I would jump, boost, drop, cancel over springs to save half a second. I would even skip the rails in hopes of trimming off a few frames, and trust me, rails don't work in this game either. It's Sonic, dumbass. And honestly, just doing everything I possibly could until eventually letting out a golf-ass fist bump alongside a fuck yeah that filled the room of now nervous game journalists. I was feeling pretty good about myself, as I'm sure nobody else in this room had a 1-2 S rank, but I also noticed that I am falling incredibly behind, as that guy, that guy, and even that guy are all on Supersonic. So I'm just gonna skip ahead. Remember that one guy who rocked our shit? Yeah, he's the boss of the first island. I think the undisputed best part of this game is that Supersonic... And apparently that's all I can show. But let me just say that this fight felt incredible. You can't see it, but you just have to take my word for it. It made me feel like this game was finally gonna be special in a sea of things that haven't been special.
We can use these as ramps!
So when you make it to the next island, all the Chaos Emeralds scatter, which makes sense and kind of ties into how the rest of the game is going to work. Fight, gear, level, key, emerald, boss, scatter. All of Sonic Frontiers is about diving into random aspects of gaming and somehow pulling it off. Like, let me show you an example from another game. Just kidding, this is also Sonic Frontiers for some reason. Sometimes you have a skydiving simulator, sometimes you're playing Toho, and sometimes you can't see shit because the game randomly decided that it's time for you to gamble your life savings away while fighting a boss. However, when it comes to all the little missions, I will say they're pretty varied. Some are just those simple, oh, I see kind of moments. Some are just seeing how much damage you can deal in a set amount of time. The weirdest one is this Knuckles thing where you have to deliver pots to him. It opens with like this Mario Kart fanfare. It was all about like risk reward. You had to get 16 pots to Knuckles for whatever reason. So the more pots you got, the faster the level got. But then if you took it slow, then the level lasts forever. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, I probably know how fast it goes. No, you don't. What the fuck am I supposed to do about this? But then when you beat it, what? However, the overworld is kind of what I have the most problems with. You'll just follow this waypoint and be like, oh yeah, let's go over here. And then it's like the edge of the fucking earth. The map doesn't tell you anything, so I just kind of kept going in random places until I was like, oh, okay, I think this is it. But unfortunately, they cut me off right here, and that's the end of it. So I packed up my bag, went to a luau, and Ubered to the airport just so I could go home. And hopefully they didn't hear any of my bomb jokes. This was just a fun trip that left me with a lot of memories, but when I made it home, there was only one thing I could think about. So looking back, I probably could have saved a few frames by skipping this.